Michael Carnevale is branch manager and financial advisor. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated, 400 Southbridge Street in Auburn, Massachusetts, 1-800-657-9126. A member of FINRA SIPC and are not deposits, not insured by FDIC or any governmental agency, not guaranteed by Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank, and subject to risk, may lose value. Webster 5 Cent Savings Bank is not affiliated with Raymond James Financial Services Incorporated. The information contained in this report does not purport to be a complete description of the securities markets or developments referred to in the material. The information has been obtained from sources considered to be reliable, but we do not guarantee that the foregoing material is accurate or complete. Any information is not a complete summary or statement of all available data necessary for making an investment decision and does not constitute a recommendation. Any opinions are those of Michael Carnevale and not necessarily those of RJFS or Raymond James. Expressions of opinion are as of this date and are subject to change without notice.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Richard Morco. This is Conversations with Mike Carnevale. Mike Carnevale is going to let us know a couple of days after the election where we're headed in the economy. I guess I would let you opine first on divided government and what we can expect.
Well, about this time every 4 years, right? You get some people who are happy and some people who are not happy. So people who are happy say, oh, that's going to be great for the market. And the people who aren't happy say, I think I'm going to get out of everything and move on. Well, there's some charts there. There's some history that we can look at to kind of...
And I'm looking at it right now.
Keep everybody on the level plane. Kind of doesn't really matter what party's in control of the presidency or the House of Representatives or the Senate. Market's been positive all those times. There are some setups which historically have been better and some who have been worse, but there are no scenarios where the average annual return is negative. So if you take a look at since 1951, the Standard & Poor's 500 does better during a divided government period where both parties are in control of something. And the worst returns are when one party is controlling everything. We appear to be headed toward the worst possible return, and that would be when the Republican Party controls everything. Since 1951, the average annual return when the Republicans have controlled the three bodies has been 6.7%. When the Democrats controlled the three, the return was 8.6%. And when you had it divided, it was 8%. So you hope for a divided government. Probably the worst would be what we appear to be having now, which is a Republican-controlled Senate, Congress, and the President. But it's still positive. It's still a positive return.
Nothing was diving down.
Correct. So I think sometimes people, if you won, you think everything's great. If you lost, you think everything's bad. And in reality, historically, it's all been good.
For whom?
For people who are invested in the stock market.
How about people who, the great unwashed, but probably a fairly sizable majority, who aren't? Does this really do any good for them?
No, it doesn't. I don't think it has any positive effect for them.
So, really, if you were speaking to them, you'd say, get the pitchforks out and start stabbing people.
Well, I think the thing is you got to try to be able to get to that level where it can benefit you.
That's what, that's something nice to say to people.
Yeah. For some people, it will be impossible to do.
Yeah.
There are. And that's kind of why you need government assistance.
So government has to be in there, like they have to have an Internal Inflation Reduction Act.
No, I mean, they have to provide some support for people who cannot get to the next level. You know, a lot of people say, well, it's up to the individual, and you can, I did it so you can do it, or he did it so she can do it. Some people just cannot do it.
What would you say is, and I'm really unfair in this, but what would you say was the percentage of, we know the 1%.
Right.
We don't even have to talk about that.
Right.
But the body of, what would you say, the body of people who have their 401ks, who put into all this stuff?
Yeah.
What would you say that percentage?
I don't know what it is, but I would guess it's low based on what I've seen at places that I've worked. Most employees way underfund their 401k.
So across the board, for other than a few people, it kind of sucks. Not that's
I would guess, if I had to guess, I wouldn't be surprised it's a third to up to a half.
that are underwater.
Right.
Okay.
That's just a guess.
Well, there is a lot of people. Most everybody, I think, has this goal. If not the 401k, in an index fund, a house.
Yep.
That's a good it has been a good investment.
Yes.
So that type of person kind of does still feel invested in the order of things.
Yeah. I think a lot of people are over invested in the house and under invested in S&P 500 or whatever choice.
Like you have a house.
Yes.
You don't consider yourself over invested in it.
In the house, no. I mean,
It's a reasonable
modest house.
domicile.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you consider overinvestment?
Well, I think when you drive around and you see some of these houses, where the garage is half the size of the house and there's, two people living it in, there's two big stories and, that type of thing.
So they would be, for saying, okay, it's time to cash in.
Yeah.
And
The ever ratcheting up of the house. We got the starter house, and now we're this, and pretty soon you're at a level where you have too much.
Well, if you don't have children, you probably don't need much more than a starter house.
Right.
So, would you say that there are people out there who are into the McMansion thing
Oh yeah.
and don't have kids?
Yep. I will tell you just, from what I've encountered, the wealthiest customers are the ones who've been in the same house for 20, 30 years. The least wealthiest are the ones that every 5 to 7 years move.
That I don't get, I will agree. Because I have, I don't expect to move soon. In fact, I've dug a big hole out back, and I've got it trapped so that the last day I'm just going to walk into that, boom, everything goes over me. And it's,
Okay.
that's how it's going to be.
All right.
'Cause I don't want to play with it all. Do we go to Florida after this last summer?
Is it
Probably.
is it downhill?
Oh yeah.
Good. So
Oh,
because
yeah.
if you just collapse, you'll roll into it.
Well, yeah. It's, if I can walk down, it's downhill, and I'll just sort of roll. into
Lean
it.
and
Yeah.
eventually get in there.
Yeah. And,
Okay.
of course, nobody will know. Please, could you turn this off for a second? Nobody in town will know.
Well, no, right.
But yeah, if we had to do, and it's something it's an asset. This might be crazy even. It's something that I hope my children do well on.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't dug the hole for my wife. I don't know how she feels about that.
Okay.
But I know I've got mine.
You're unsure whether you want to be combined.
Well, I don't know how. I haven't asked. Well, what do you think? I haven't.
Yeah, it's a tough question to ask.
Because not everybody likes this question.
Yeah.
Just kind of probably a little. You probably don't get it because this is a life question. A philosopher like you,
Would not.
an economist and everything.
Would not. Right.
All right. So I think we've kind of done this one, if not to death. We've done our best to kill it.
We have.
So let's move on to, and we'll get to all the other Mike stuff shortly. But all right, this often can be a bone of contention between Michael and myself. Some experts, and who are those some experts?
Well, they mention further down a Columbia University professor, but...
Columbia University, okay. Well, there's a
Take
lot of
that
professors in this country.
Right.
Some experts believe that America's national debt doesn't pose a problem because recent spending has been aimed at increasing productivity. Public debt, and we quote, is justified if it is invested in productivity-enhancing measures that will ensure the economy generates growth that's required to finance that debt. Columbia University, Brett House, he's a Columbia guy.
Mm-hmm.
And the man added that while a debt-to-GDP ratio of over 100% would be a problem for most countries, the United States is not most countries.
Right.
But there's no country that's most countries, so I'm not going to quibble with that.
The U.S. is at 122% right now.
Professor House added, America issues all of its debt in U.S. dollars, and consistently we see the world in political or financial crisis. Money flows into U.S. treasuries and the bond market as a safe store of value. Because the U.S. issues all of its debt in U.S. dollars, it always has the possibilities of finding additional buyers for debt. Is that so? And that has been so.
That has been the case for over 200 years.
For over 200 years. Actually, we had the debt, at some points we've had the debt paid off.
Right.
So, but we have not had to issue it in anybody else's currency.
Correct.
So we can just, because we have a great Navy, we can just, dare I say it, spend like drunken sailors, is what you're saying. Moi, I really doubt that we have been able to do that. Doesn't mean we haven't had really bad times in this country.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah. No question.
Wouldn't it be more a goal fiscally to just wisely spend rather than with our Navy, the drunken sailor?
Of course.
So,
of course.
How in the world now that's coming with BRICS?
Mm-hmm.
Are we getting to a point, because the United States is screwing up in the world,
Mm-hmm.
where the people say, the heck with this, we're going with BRICS? Do you think, there'll always be somebody probably who wants our debt, but do you think that it'll be always at this high level?
I think if you look at like the debt to GDP, debt to the size of the economy, it has been going up a long time and probably will continue to go up. Because I think the things that need to be done, everyone talks about the government or this party, that party, or Washington or Boston or whatever. You know yourself personally, it's painful to pay down debt, right? I mean, if you get into
it feels really good when you've done it, though.
It does, but a lot of people personally don't have the the stomach to...
The discipline.
That's the word. The discipline.
DISCIPLIN.
Yes.
Use it twice today, it's yours.
Okay. Correct. They don't have it.
Okay. They don't. And maybe there's some governments who don't have that
That's
discipline.
true. That's
Can
true.
we name anybody right here in this? Can we name anybody on this continent?
Oh, sure. The U.S. government.
Bingo.
Right.
And at some point, and it has been in the past, it hasn't been easy. It's been a problem.
Right.
So why wouldn't it be a problem now? Or why doesn't it become a problem?
Well, it doesn't become a problem as long as there's someone who's willing to fund the debt, whether it's China buying the bonds, Japan buying, whatever. Then your debt can grow forever because you've always got somebody who's, the problem would become is if they stop doing that.
They say, yep, bingo.
And at some point, just like everything else, there's a beginning and an end.
Wait a minute, I mean,
That's a second profound statement I've made in, what, 10 minutes? There's always a beginning and to an end, right?
yeah.
I just don't think the end is anywhere near in sight because there's no alternative. I think the end will come when there is an alternative.
The Biden administration, whatever you want to say about it, I'm not going to get partisan in this. The Biden administration was that drunken sailor.
Mm-hmm.
They funded some really crazy things. I heard on NPR, they're brilliant stuff. They funded EV factories and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they called it an Inflation Reduction Act, when you're which isn't an inflation, which is a crazy lie.
Yeah, yeah.
So what the result of that was, okay, maybe in some state they got a job at an EV factory.
Mm-hmm.
Guy goes down and buys some bread. Wait a minute.
Right.
Goes to the pump, the gas pump. Wait a minute. So what the government seems to be doing is, well, we'll give some winners, we'll give some losers. I don't, but I've been a skeptic, since we've been meeting together, I've been the big skeptic.
Mm-hmm.
And when does this end? And we won't know until we know.
Right. But I don't think it's...
Well, you don't think it's going to be soon?
No.
You think we'll always find a bigger sucker?
Until...
And you don't want me using that word sucker.
No, but until there's a replacement, there's an alternative. And usually that comes about sort of like out of the blue. But there's nothing there now that's going to replace these countries from buying our debt. If we were smart, we would be taking advantage of this, right?
And what would be the advantage?
Cutting spending to bring down the deficits, rather than saying, hey, we can continue to spend because, hey, this guy 8,000 miles away is going to keep funding our, and what they're doing, right? They're funding our lifestyle, right?
Yep.
And no one really wants to reduce their lifestyle. I put it always on a personal basis, right? To pay off debt means you got to do without something. Most people don't want to do without anything, right?
Well, that is true, but just about everybody comes to that conclusion that there is something they do have to do without at some point.
Right. But for a lot of them, it's too late.
Well, I hope not.
The ball is rolling too fast.
I hope not. And we've done this, we've done it well, but we have the old things like the results.
Yeah.
We ought to go through those.
October kind of was in the middle of the month in performance, and kind of.
I thought you said when we come back from vacation, everything goes well.
Well, the next 6 months.
Okay.
We just got off the sell in May, go away, come back on Halloween Day.
Yeah.
That usually is not a great.
If you weren't a poet, I wouldn't remember these things.
I know. So that was a period historically. The market goes up about 2%. This year it was much better than that. From May to Halloween, the market gained 8%.
Yeah, you touted that.
So that's a good, 3,000 points. Although October was down 1.3%, we did hit 43,000 level on the 18th, and we had 7 all-time closing highs. There's only 20 trading days in a year, in a month.
And what was the biggest day recently?
That was the day after the election.
Yeah, boy.
Was the 4th largest point gain.
But you may not be looking at this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin set records.
Yes, went up 12% or something.
It's what, 78 now?
Yeah, in that area, yeah.
That's nuts. That's
Yep. Yep.
okay.
I think a lot of these things, I think if you look back at day after elections, the market usually does well because people are just glad that, okay, we got the answer and now let's move on.
Well, do you think it'll subside?
Oh, yeah.
So you think we'll go down to 40?
Yeah, no, but I wouldn't be surprised if, within the next week or so, you got a day where it's down 1,000 points.
Okay.
Wouldn't surprise me.
All right, so we're kind of moving along.
Rates
here.
have started to come up a little bit.
What?
The interest rates have started to come up a little bit. The 30-year Treasury a month ago was in the low 4s. Now it's in the mid 4s.
And all those people overseas were upset they missed the boat.
Yep. Yep.
All right, technicals.
They got a lot better. But you would think that, from a month ago, but you would think that that would be the case, right? Because the market was down, right? So you took a little pressure off rising stock market, so you would expect the short-term indicators to look better than they did a month ago, and they do.
Well, there's always the Peter Lynch quote. I think it was Peter Lynch. So it looks good, like it's coming, it's going, it's coming, it's going. His thought was, it's always darkest before it gets pitch black.
Right, that's true. That's true. But there's nothing in the, and I put a lot in these technical indicators. There's nothing in the technical indicators that say you're in for a big drop. And that's been the case for a long time.
Yeah, I've never, when we've met, I've never heard you say the sun's not coming up tomorrow.
Right, and that's mainly based on these technical indicators. They're not. Sure, you can have something that comes out of the blue, right?
Well, that's what a disaster is. It comes out of the blue.
Right.
I mean, if we all knew something, the tsunami was coming, we'd get out of the way.
Right.
So it's when we don't.
So there's nothing there that would say you should begin to worry.
Now, that's the stochastic oscillator, which is one of those high-tech things.
Yep, getting a lot better.
Getting a lot better. Okay.
Last month it was at 9,500, the worst possible reading. Now it's down to 83, so that's going in the right direction.
Well, I remember when I was in our shop in high school, they had an oscillator on the, but I think this is...
That's a different type of
Oh,
oscillator.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a different type of oscillator. But we do have some...
They had a fear and greed oscillator on the bench too.
Okay, all right. And that's another one moving in the right direction. So, we're already into the 7th day of November. November historically is a pretty good month, and so far so good.
Well, now the world's banks and where their rates are.
A lot of them have been cutting rates in the last month.
Is that a monkey see, monkey do?
Yeah, I think it is. The only one that really raised rates was Russia. They increased them by 200%.
200% the rate. What was the rate?
2%. 2%. 200 basis points. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just checking to see if you're listening.
What?
I'm just checking to see if
I'm
you're listening.
sorry, I missed that.
Are you listening? To 21%. And I guess, I don't live in Russia, but according to what they say, inflation has been a problem because of the money they're spending on, the war with Ukraine. So
Yeah.
they were the only central bank that raised rates. We got another positive indicator at the World Series.
A Dodgers win
Yeah.
is good for the market. 11 prior Dodgers-Yankees World Series, the Dodgers won 3.
Yeah.
They were kind of the handmaid all the time. The
Yeah.
Yankees were really,
Yes.
I remember the years of Yankee dominance.
Oh, yeah.
The kids today have no idea what for a Boston fan, what that was
Oh,
like.
yes. Yeah. Yep.
So Yankees, 8 wins, saw the market up next year only 50% of the time. For an average gain of 7%, but when the Dodgers do it, it's each year by 12%.
And the market, every time the Dodgers defeat the Yankees in a World Series, the following year the market's been up.
Okay, folks, you've heard it here first. So
That's-
we do the science.
That's probably why the day after the election, the market went up 1,500 points. It had nothing to do with getting rid of the election.
yeah.
It was delayed reaction to the Dodgers winning the World Series.
Of course. And,
You know. And somebody said, that's not really, it's as good as any other indicator, I say. I don't get.
what was the guy, Maximus? What was his name? Max, who hit the home run. I think it was the 6th game. Was that?
This year?
Yeah, the Dodger.
Freeman?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then of course, Shohei Ohtani
Yes.
dominating
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
wow. Okay, those Dodgers never bet against.
Well, now that we got the election over, we can worry about, the real stuff, the important stuff,
You think you think that the economy is important and not the
No, from my own standpoint.
Okay.
Now I can start worrying about the important stuff. Will the Bills ever be able to defeat the Chiefs? Will they be able to win a World Series? Will the Red Sox ever be good again? Those are the things that, we have to worry about, not politics and stuff like that.
Okay, you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. All right, inflation.
Well, those 4 economic indicators we looked at, the trends haven't changed really in, a couple of years. The rate of inflation is decreasing. Leading economic indicators is still negative.
Excuse me. The rate of increase
Increase,
in inflation,
right.
not the rate of inflation.
No, the rate of
Inflation
increase.
continues.
Yeah.
Inflation is the wave that never stops.
You hope it never stops.
I hope it stops.
No.
Well,
Falling prices is bad.
falling prices.
Yeah, go back to,
First of all, falling prices are bad.
right.
I just want to.
Oh, okay. Yes.
All right.
But, mixed results, which has been the case for quite a while, but the rate of increase is dropping. Leading economic indicators negative again in September. They're actually going in the wrong direction. They're getting worse rather than better. We had that one fluke back in February where the leading economic indicators were positive. People said, this is the start of something. And, I think we talked about, in 1 month, is it a fluke? We'll know in March. Well, 7 months later, we know it was a fluke because they've been negative for the last 7 months. And the toughest thing is the 2 biggest components. There's 10 components in that leading economic indicator, but they're not all equally weighted. The 2 largest components are the work week and consumer expectations, and they make up about 40% of the index. And they have been not great for a long time. Consumer expectations has been really bad for a long time. And you look back and you say, well, stock market's done well, you survived, financial crises and whatnot, but it really hasn't improved consumers' expectations. Consumers' beliefs about the future have not gotten better.
Do you think it might be a lack of money the consumers have that makes them feel that way?
Oh, yeah.
Well, funny how that works.
Yeah? Oh, sure. Sure.
So, all right, let's go. Jobless claim.
Again, the number you want to focus there, at least historically, is 250,000 layoffs a week, because that's about the number that, at least historically, really hurts the economy. We're still not there. The latest number was 216,000, 5-month low. and it was at the same level a year ago. The 4-week average is 236,000. That's below 250,000. So, I mean, really no negative news there. Employment report, we got one for the month of October, which wasn't great. September, though, was another big increase, 254,000 new non-farm jobs. It was the 45th month in a row of job creation. Historically, the economy needs 150,000 new non-farm jobs a month to grow. So you could see we had 254,000, but there was a report that came out on November 1, but that falls into next month's talk. But the hint was it was bad. Only 12,000 jobs were created.
I think I had seen something that most of the employment was government. Most of that.
It was healthcare and leisure.
That was in September.
September.
But
Right.
the latest one, it's mostly government.
Government.
And of course, healthcare, not leisure, but healthcare, a lot of that
It's
is
government. Yeah, it's government. It's government. Manufacturing in September lost 7,000 jobs. That's not good.
That's horrible.
The positive was the size of the labor force increased by 150,000 people. So usually, again,
Yeah, but they're all leaving after January.
Well, it could be.
21st.
Could be. But I mean, the thing is, historically, people only enter the labor market if they're somewhat positive of the future. So the fact that it increased by 150,000, that's a good sign. There's good signs, bad signs. But of those four, jobless claims, inflation, economic indicators, employment report, the trend hasn't changed in a couple of years.
It's kind of just moving along.
Yeah, and if
you're
you
just sideways, going sideways.
and if you had followed all these trends and the technical indicators, it would have kept you in the stock market, which over the last 2 years would have been the way to go. And that's all these things are for. 236. Ooh, is that a good or bad? It doesn't matter. It's in relationship to where it was, and compare it to a historical number. And so these are the things that I would use to control your emotions.
And it's to control your emotions for another month.
Correct.
Because
That's correct.
time is up.
Yep.
We've been talking with Michael Carnevale, our financial expert, who no one will ever call the voice of doom. This is Richard Morco. Thank you for stopping by.